James Bylefield is an example of a new generation of global web CEO. He's worked in a range of startups and also for big corporates too. He originally started at JP Morgan before then selling his own startup, UpMyStreet.com. He then moved to Yahoo and worked as an MD in the European business. Before then moving to Skype, and James was involved in really globalising Skype as his main claim to fame. And recently as a CEO of another startup, OpenX, which is challenging Google in the advertising space. And James is going to share his secrets of being a CEO. Hi James, good to see you again.
Hi, good to see you, Steve.
James, there's a number of areas that I'd like to cover with you,
Okay.
Around the web and how you lead a business and maybe some of your own secrets.
Mm-hmm.
I think given your background, maybe we could talk first of all about the web.
Yeah.
Could you maybe share your point of view about Web 2.0 or 3.0 and how it's going to impact the world, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to dramatically change business and the world more generally in a number of quite fundamental ways. I think firstly, it's a democratizing force. So suddenly people who previously weren't necessarily empowered with the ability to build their own business or grow their own business beyond even national or local shores now are capable from basically a garage to build a business which can have a global impact. Examples of that, whether it's Apple or it's Google or HP, these businesses are now have global brand names, have grown pretty much from an acorn and blossomed. So I think that's one key point to think about.
So do you think it's going to be pretty fundamental? Do you have a sense about? I mean, do you have a sense about how it will be from a consumer and also from what it means for big corporates?
Yes, I mean, I think one of the key elements is it does empower the customer and empowers consumers in a new way. Because of the interactive nature of digital media, suddenly people can talk back at the companies or the organisations they've been customers of for many years often, and so you have these kind of websites setting up, for example, so Tesco sucks or something.com, which are very hard for the company to control or close down. And they shouldn't actually. It's a way and an opportunity for them to engage with their customers, understand more about what their customers think about current services and offerings, and actually then respond. Starbucks have a great idea, which is basically asking their own customers for what do you want from your local Starbucks, what do you like, what you don't like, but what else should we as a company be doing? And so there's this concept of crowdsourcing new ideas and new concepts, and I think that's something which the kind of more forward-looking companies are really embracing, and I think will be really a trend for the future.
Right, okay. Because a lot of the corporates that I deal with are still very much in a command and control and want to control everything.
Yes.
And that seems to be at odds with the more dynamic nature of the web.
I think that's right. I think it's a challenge for those companies to embrace these new interactive technologies and see it as an opportunity rather than as a threat to their, the way that things have always been done, if you like.
Yeah.
It's not the first time it's happened, of course. The advent of TV, radio, and other things over time. This is not the first time. I think the rate of innovation and technology shift is accelerating. Yeah. So it's getting easier for new organizations and companies and competitors to spring up in places you didn't necessarily look to them before, either by geography or sector. And the idea of adjacent markets is now becoming a little bit more blurred, for example, as companies like Google, are they really competing with WPP and, those sorts of companies? Are they competing with phone companies? Are they competing with other sorts of organization? It becomes a more blurred picture, more dynamic picture, and can shift quite fast as alliances and changes happen in the industry.
When we talk about the web, and a lot of people are very excited about the web, and a lot of people are quite cynical about it because they've seen the sort of booms and bust cycles before, even within the web.
Yeah.
Are there any sort of pitfalls you think that will halt the development of the web, or do you see it as being ultimately the global platform that we'll all be connected to and
Yes, I think in a few years' time it'll seem odd for us to talk about the web or the internet. It'll be just something which is out there, and it's all about the services or the products or the opportunity or the communication channels that it offers, which will be what we'll talk about. Yeah. Just as people don't really talk about with the mobile phone, they don't think of the technology behind it. They think of what the phone can do for them. Yeah. And I think we'll get to the stage where the web will be so ubiquitous in people's lives, both in a fixed line and a mobile kind of environment, that actually it'll be less about the technology and more about the services and applications. And that's starting to happen as certain companies' services enter kind of public consciousness and become verbs in their own right.
Yeah.
Whether it's eBay, becoming just the place people go to buy and sell used items, for example. Google, Googling something is now almost a recognised verb. It's probably in the dictionary, and so on. Those sorts of activities become, almost what people talk about more than I'm on the internet. If you access, something on your phone, for example, really, phones these days are just computers. They just happen to have a different form factor, different look from traditional computers you might think about on your desk. So I think the way people think about technology would evolve, less about technology, more about what it can do for them.
Right. And is there any sort of fundamental secrets for CEOs to win in the sort of new web world?
I think to be very open. So I think to be open to ideas and to be open to changes and challenging your existing businesses and business models before somebody else comes along and does it for you. I mean, the internet's been reaching into obviously the media industry for a long time. We're now seeing some of those major shifts really come to pass. Newspaper industry being a good example of that. Having said that, even in the car industry or in industries which people have thought, oh God, it's the last place the internet's ever going to reach. To buy and sell a car now, the first place most consumers go if they're going to buy a car is the web, right?
Yeah.
Before they walk into a dealership, they would have done their research and they go in, saying, okay, this is what I want and this is the price I'd like. Going to the doctor these days, people generally have gone in and done the research before, so they may know more than their doctor when they walk in. That's quite challenging to doctors or to car dealers who, for many years, have relied on the supplier, if you like, of the service, having superior access to knowledge. And that's changing the opportunity. And I think it gives organizations, large and small, the chance to, as I say, engage deeper with consumers and businesses and their customers, but also to be much more thoughtful and much more open to evolving the way they do things to make sure that they can really address the opportunity.
Right. Okay. No, I agree with you. I suppose also with your experience, because you've sort of done startups like Up My Street, and you've also worked in more of the Yahoo corporate environments as well. What's your sense about how companies can be entrepreneurial, or how leaders can, how can someone come in and make an impact in a more established corporate?
I think it's hard, and I think it takes at its fundamental buy-in from chairman, board, chief exec level to really make it work. I think that the day is past when the internet is just another channel, or it's just another part of the business kind of bolted onto the side. Actually, for many businesses looking forward, it becomes the heart of the opportunity for those businesses, the way they work and the way they think, and it needs to be kind of hard-coded into the business in that way, organizationally, strategically, as well as kind of operationally and tactically. So I think some of the more far-reaching companies, so BT, Ben Verwaayen, for example, very much put broadband at the heart of his strategy to transform BT from a very much a traditional business into more of a services-led culture, services-led business, and that's been quite successful. Other companies have been less brave, I would say, in their approach to the marketplace. Sometimes it's easier for privately held companies to really invest in and manage through that kind of radical change than public companies. But I think if you tell the right story to your investors and to shareholders, you are able to demonstrate in a relatively short period of time the change is positively happening to your business. Again, more far-sighted investors will see that you need to address the change and make the change yourself. Otherwise, change will be kind of forced upon you, and that's never a good place to be.
Because you've worked in PLCs, but also you've worked in private equity recently.
That's right.
Do you think that is it so much easier to work with in the PE environment?
They have their own challenges. So they are they're more hands-on, for sure, in a significant way. However, they're slightly longer term in their time horizon. So the challenge, I think, in public companies is the necessity to report on a regular basis to the market does limit your ability to truly address some of the fundamentals in an organization, sometimes as much as you probably should if you are trying to make a shift from an old way of doing business to a new, versus in a privately backed business, laying out the right vision and strategy to do something. Generally, they will wait more than a quarter or two to wait to see some significant results and performance. So I think it can be easier. In fact, we've seen a number of, until recently, the PE firms very actively taking public companies private, EMI being a good example, and then executing hard to transform those businesses into something completely different with an eye to, in future, probably putting them back into the public markets.
Right. Okay. And then, as a private equity back